Okay, I have not. Welcome back, 100th Monkey. I have not managed to get stuff loaded up over there at BitChute. Amusingly enough, it's been a little busy. Have many good things happening here, and some bad things, and all right, I'm going to explain a few things here, but I'm seeing some reports in other places that are a little disturbing, but you can't tell if it's bullshit or not. This is the problem. Like when there was SARS and the swine flu, I was going to Hong Kong and China because everything was so ridiculously cheap. I mean, hotels and airfare was stupid cheap, and I knew I wasn't going to get sick, and I knew it was bullshit. This new one, this coronavirus, which I think is mostly neural linguistic programming to sell beer, but looks like there could be Houston, we may have a problem because there's been a couple of leaks that have come out, and see that are they leaks or are they not leaks? Was it just designed that once you hear about the or not the swine flu, the coronavirus, that you'll stay home? Because it certainly seems to have, where'd that come from? It certainly seems to have cleared the streets of Hong Kong of protesters, hasn't it? That worked out nicely. So they know how to govern us, and they have exactly 4 arrows in their quiver. It is covered in this book over here. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. What do they use to control us? They know how to govern. It's the thing that's amazing to me is they know how to govern. Let's see here. There's conquest is one horse. War is the other horse. Pestilence is the other one, and famine, lack of food. Those are the 4 horsemen. All right, this is the arrow that they're using, right? Is pestilence. This right, divide and conquer. What's the first law of conquest? Divide and conquer, right? War, right? They don't like us, they're getting rid of us. There's too many of us. We're starting to wake up, and when a lot of us get here, apparently something happens where the consciousness rises, and they don't want that. So they are in get rid of humans mode, get rid of men and women mode. And this is one of the arrows in their quiver, right? The Hawaiians didn't die in droves on accident. The Indians didn't get wiped out on accident. And they'll tell you, well, they didn't even know about germs back then. They knew enough to give the Indians blankets that had smallpox on them up there in the Northwest, didn't they? They knew enough about, anyway, they use germ warfare, and they've known about it. These people that the 1% of the 1% of that small tiny amount of humans, or well, I don't know what the hell they are. They look like us maybe, but they're not like us. But these guys were mummifying and back there making concoctions with the Egyptians. Are you going to tell me that they didn't know about disease and germs and so on? No, that's an ignorance that they foisted upon you. Anyway, they're using it now. It looks like, but see, you can't confirm. You can't. Are they in fact reports out of China correct or not? Are they lying through their teeth? I would not put it past the Chinese government to lie through their teeth. Because I have seen a couple of things where we have like 24,000 dead and 157,000 infected, which is crackers in a nation of 1 billion. Think about that. I mean, do the math there. But if it is 24,000 out of 157 or whatever it is, I can't remember the exact numbers. Now, that works out to something like 15% mortality rate. That's Spanish flu. When was the Spanish flu? Oh, yeah, 100 years ago in 1918 or so. 100 years before that, in 1820, was there a little breakout in 1820? Why, yes, there was a little breakout in 1820. So, like I said, they only have 4 arrows in their quiver. And divide and conquer is the primary one, right? Get us to kill each other. That works the best. War is obviously excellent, and then famine, right? They haven't used famine in a long time because we figured out how to grow food. But the idea being is that these guys, they're not our pals. They're not our friends. They mean to govern us, and those are the 4 ways. Now in here also, you can put fire, because lately they've been using fire. How many? Like 45,000 people missing in California. Anyway, because they just burned them to a crisp. They burned them. They incinerated them. All right, this has 2.5 water in it. I would put some of this in your purse or in a bag or in your car when you go out in public, just in case. And if you don't know about 2.5 water, find out about 2.5 water. Kangen machines make it. As good as that is this. Oh man, you can't see it because of the light. But anyway, this is Sovereign Silver. Can I get this? Anyway, you can see the label. Just look up Sovereign Silver. It's all over the place. This one is black seed oil. Black seed oil, absolutely. You can put this in your sinus. Oh my God, you want to get rid of your allergies and stuff like that if you have hay fever and allergies. It burns and is not pleasant, but it works. And the other thing is just take a teaspoon in the morning, teaspoon at night. That's it. Protect you against all those things. So then you take your, notice how I label it with the atomic number of silver, 47. So you take this, put it in this, snort it up your nose because it makes a nice fine mist when you put it in an atomizer like this. So see, lovely. It's a shower of silver. Anything that silver hits, it will die. It pretty much kills all pathogens because it shuts down their ability to breathe. And the nice thing about silver is it's impossible for any bug or to develop an immunity because it shuts down somehow. I'm not sure how that one works. I know how the 2.5 water works. Is it basically just pulls the hydrogen out of these anaerobic creatures and kills them. So anyway, you might want to have that in your arsenal when you're out and about because the chances of there being some kind of epidemic is there. It's no longer zero in my mind. It used to be like, oh yeah, they're just bullshitting, but don't know. And see, impossible to confirm one way or the other. Can't do it. All right, that's actually not what I wanted to talk about, but I figured I'd start with that. And we'll go with this next thing. We're going to talk about law and how law works. So what most people are, and particularly the sovereign men and so forth, are confused about is this simple thing of public and private. You shouldn't have this confused. All right. So all governments, public, right? The public is private, but they're private corporations. The private, you make public corporations. So the idea is that if you're private, you don't walk over here into the public. Right? This is where you get your all caps name. So over here you have all caps. Over here you have title case. Right? Over here it's Penis Van Lesbian, and over here it's Dick Van Dyke. Over here it's Samuel Clemens. Over here it's Mark Twain. Right? Over here it's, I don't even know her name, but over here it's Alicia Keys. Throughout forever, this is the way it's been. They know how to operate in the public. That's your public identity. That's how you get paid. Anyway, but you got to know the difference between public and private. So you got to know some law, and you got to not go into court and make ass. Because I watched on YouTube and I watch other stuff, but these guys just completely make ass. Now, understand something very clearly is that in that courtroom, that judge that's their courtroom, right? You walk into their courtroom, and they absolutely, while you're in the courtroom, they have authority and jurisdiction. But that authority and jurisdiction ends up. But it doesn't matter if a guy with a gun or a club comes to take you away while you're inside their jurisdiction. It's difficult to get out of that. So the trick is don't go there in the first place. I didn't put them again, really. Anyway, I showed you the letters, the 3-cent stamp letters. And again, I thought I had put them over here to make this video, but apparently I did not. Oh, well. Anyway, find out about 3-cent stamps. I just have the paperwork, and it's not even in color. Really? Monkeys. Is that one in color? Nope, that one's not in color either. All right, fine. So black and white. Oh, there it is. Buried underneath that one. And there are the letters. What do you know? I did put them over here. See, I put a pile of paperwork over here for this presentation, and I'm being silly. All right, so this is, I'm going to just put the corner up here so that you can see, oops, there is a 3-cent stamp. It's canceled. It was delivered. The world is split in two, my friends. You learn about 3-cent stamps, and this will begin your journey into the world of, so anyway, find this. I'll try to put a link someplace so that you can download this. This is a long thing. I actually had to hand this to my postmaster to get him to understand that I'm not dicking around here, guys, right? And same thing, when I go fill out my new passport stuff, they don't know anything, right? They're just slaves that are trained to do what they're told. So you need to explain to them. Middle name doesn't matter. You want your last name, and then in the place where it says first name, your first name and a middle initial. It'll pass, promise. Don't not give them your social security number. You have to give them your social security number. Anyway, this here is from, if you can find it yourself, awesome, is from George Mason University. And it talks about the postal monopoly laws and the history and development of the monopoly on the carriage of mail and the monopoly on access to mailboxes. You have the right to have a private mailbox, by the way. Anyway, important stuff. Okay, so it also can be used as evidence in court to show that you are without. I battled the IRS for quite some time, and they had to admit that I did not have income from within the United States. All of my income was contracted outside the United States. So there is no tax owed, period. But if you have income from within the United States, go look at that one thing that says includes public office. I need to remember the code section in USC 26. But anyway, includes public office. That's everybody. Your public office over here is citizen, U.S. person, U.S. citizen. That is the public office. Comes with very limited voting rights that matter not, because you vote, doesn't matter. The Electoral College elects the president. You just kind of sort of let them understand sentiment is what that boils down to. But anyway, all right, so let's get to the nitty gritty of this. Too much talking, not enough action. So the first thing you need to know or need to understand is that book that I was holding up earlier. This one. Gotta know what's in here. It's in every courtroom. You should probably know what's in this book. All of our law is based on this book. So what are they trying to get you to do? They're trying to get you to be atheist. They're trying to get you to get confused about your gender because now you refer to yourself as a person, not a man or a woman, right? Anyway, they're tricksters. That's what they do. That's what the demons do. They trick you. That's the point. That's the whole entire point. Thanks. So now, appreciate it. So, and see, here's the thing. One teaches to learn. I can't go over this stuff without having more understanding of it when I'm trying to teach it to somebody else. So, and then I watch my own video and see if I misspoke or made errors or whatever. But anyway, so what we need to talk about here is natural law. And the natural law is no respecter of persons. All right, so natural law. The 7 pillars that you see in that book, I gotta go look that up for you. But the 7 pillars that you see in the Bible and so forth, they're talking about this. They're talking about the Hermetic principles. Those are the pillars. There needs to be less of me and more of that. All right, so now, am I going to cover this? Yes, I'm going to cover this. All right, fine. So we got 7 things to cover here when it comes to the natural law. And the natural law, the Hermetic principles, right? And there's no getting away from these. This is how it is. First thing, first symbol, that one stands for mentalism, right? It's all in your mind. This is all going on in your mind. This whole thing is in your mind. This whole thing with governments and so forth, and imaginary lines on land and imaginary lines on the ocean and so forth, that's all up here. It's in your mind. So once they they figured out that once they get control of your mind, they don't need to put you in chains. Because they put you in chains or they put you in a cage, your natural instinct is to get out of the cage and try to break the chains. But if you don't know what you're wearing, you don't have any idea you're wearing chains, and it's a device that it's all kind of handy stuff in here. It keeps all my record, right? And it's access to the internet, and all the phone numbers are in there, and all that. It's not. This is not a caller. They're not tracking me. They're not listening to me. Anyway, the idea is that yes, yes, they are. It's funny because in front of my computer and so forth, I don't ever talk about, or I don't search stuff. I don't need, uh, let's say, knife sharpening, for example. My landlord is an excellent sharpener of knives, and we often have conversations about it. What do you think shows up on Instagram all the time? Blocks of knives, knife sharpening kits, right? I've never searched for that once. They listen, right? And it's not a human. It's not. There's not a guy on the side of your computer, right? It's an algorithm, a computer algorithm that logs keywords, and now they're using it to market to you. But I assure you, they're using it for other things too. Anyway, mentalism. Once they got your mind, right? They don't need to put you in a cage. They don't need, right? So they give you things. They give you toys to track you. Your car tracks you, right? I mean, it's all. And you can say that it's turned off. You can turn off your microphone. Nah. Right? I remember a long time ago when I started figuring out just exactly how much this was happening. Fisheye cameras in VCRs. So I had a friend at the Total Nerd. And he's just like, "You're so full of shit. There's no camera in my VCR." He opens up his VCR, and sure enough, there's a camera in there. Anyway, and after that, he started paying attention, and now he's actually a really good researcher. All right, so then what do we have? We have correspondence, as above, so below. Actually, we should do the other way around. Should do this and that. There you go. And what you have is correspondence. I'm not going to get into it. That's the second principle. And then vibration, frequency and vibration. Tesla told you the same. And then I can't draw it well. Polarity is the next one. Rhythm, right? As bad as winter is, spring comes. As long as it'll be dark, but then there's going to be dawn. There is a rhythm to the place that we're in. Let's see here. Oh, and then of course, this is enjoyable. Cause and effect. For every action, there is an opposite but equal reaction. And then the last one they're dicking with is gender. Like I said, if they can get you to refer to yourself as a person, they've won half the battle. Because it's persons over here, it's men and women over here. Right? If they can get you to vote, I like Trump. Yeah, he's gonna change everything, and he's a savior, and he's a freaking archangel. I've seen all kind of crazy shit, and he's got a time machine and Tesla and blah blah. Go ahead and register to vote. Right? Now you will respect the authority of law enforcement. Those are not peace officers. Those are law enforcement officers. What law are they enforcing? Are they enforcing natural law? Hell no. They're statutes, right? The statutes merchants have a private company in your town. It's called the police force. And they will come over here and guns and clubs. And the idea is that they got all the guns and clubs. We do not have all the guns and clubs. Well, actually, we do. We outnumber them ridiculously, but the average person doesn't have a fucking clue. So, right. But here's the deal, kids. If it's time to hide your guns, it's time to use your guns. But the point of the matter, and what I believe these guys are trying to do, is get this transition to happen peacefully. Because I am of the mind and agreement that if you guys, and this crew is not a good crew because it's the 100 Monkey crew, and you guys are pretty much, researchers and such. But if you understand that if the masses found out what these fuckers were doing to children, the rape and pillaging that was going on, the actually using humans as food, and the all the other shit that they do, the chance of you having, why don't you just do some laundry? You could actually do laundry instead of just piling it up. Anyway, the idea is that if you had an idea of what these people were doing, you might pick up your guns. There might be revolution. There might be a Hong Kong or a France here in the United States. Problem is we got guns. And that means killing. And I'm not confident you guys know who to shoot at, or that we would, like you always see when they get civil unrest, as it were, you wind up with all manner of people attacking grandma's liquor store instead of, going over, like when the LA riots happened and the I'm a member of the Korean Rooftop Association, them guys. But anyway, they were standing there, standing and delivering on top of their businesses with guns and so forth, right? Keep it to a minimum. Go get some work done and quit traipsing out. Can you see that I'm trying to make a video over here? All right. Anyway, so the idea is that these guys were very clear that Hollywood and the wealthy people, yeah, they had a police corridor. But the regular folk, they didn't get any police protection, right? And this is the thing, because they were concerned that that rioting and shooting could right? Now Rodney King happens all the damn time, right? They got you used to it. They showed you over and over again to the point where you're no longer outraged when you see somebody get shot or a cop could kick a woman in the head and so forth, right? That's just how it is, and right. So they got you intimidated. But the idea is over here in the public, they absolutely rule over you if you are in the public. Now, if in the private, you can get them to leave you alone, and that's all you want. You want them to leave you alone. You don't want to have to pick up your guns and go fight. Revolutions always eat their parents, always. So just understand that we often wind up with, and I can't read all of these that are coming in. I'll read them later and have a fun time. But the idea is you just want to be left alone and you want to do it peaceably, right? So the way to do it is use documents as your weapons, not actual guns. Because the idea is that you want to keep the peace, right? That's your square, right? Do no harm, right? I mean, it's very simple. There's 4 things there, right? Don't breach the peace. Don't harm anybody, right? I mean, there's only 4 of them, right? No mischief in agreements or contracts or, in your word or promises and agreements. Just no mischief, right? Keep your damn word. And then I missed one. But anyway, there's 4 of those, right? Now, once you've got natural law down, right? And again, believe it or not, the Constitution and most of the laws of the statute merchants make obey the natural law. Believe it or not. And it becomes, they put legalese in there, but at the same time, right? So now you have natural law, and then you have the color of law. That's supposed to be a law. There you go. Okay. But under color of law, that's not actual law. But, in fact, before we go to that, let's go over here to quote unquote natural law, like gravity, no respecter of persons. Again, you drop a baby off a cliff or an evil person off a cliff, gravity doesn't give a rip. The baby does not get spared. You can also talk about God's law. That becomes problematic right there because you got to make some definitions on the words. All right. So anyway, then from there, now you get to the 7 principles, and that's lined up. That's spoken about in this book. And again, this is the book that our law is based on. In the United States, it's Christian law, right? That United States corporation. Okay. And see, here's what I noticed when I watch my own videos. I've been so programmed. I think of the United States, and I'll even say it when I mean the land area that is. Oh, that's going to be a terrible map. And there's Florida, and there's Texas, and there's right. Okay, that's close enough. Maine up here. Anyway, that's not the United States. That's North America, right? They put the United States, and I can go in and look at. Oh gosh, you gotta be able to remember. But United States, that's a corporation on the land. Let's see, 9-307, UCC 9-307. Go under H. Go open up another browser and take a look at that. It's going to tell you where the United States is located, and that's the location of the debtor. And the location of the debtor is the 10 square miles that we call the District of Columbia. And take a look at who Columbia is. Oof, the District of Columbia. That's it. Now, How did they get out of the District of Columbia and get you and me, because I'm not preaching from on high here, to think that we're part of the United States, which is domiciled, which is contained in that 10 square mile area. And by the way, if you start looking, there is case law out the yang that says that they are domiciled in the 10 square miles of the United States, or excuse me, of the District of Columbia. That is the United States. And guess what? You can look at Dun and Bradstreet and you can find out that, yeah, it's it's over here, right? It's not over here. These are, it's private corporations that are the public, right? That rule us, that govern us. Okay, they govern, and they are absolutely allowed. If you look at it, they are allowed to make up private corporations to handle that, because that's the only way they can work in law. You cannot have, okay, so understand, never the twain shall meet, right? The public cannot sue or act or command performance from the private. The private cannot sue or command performance from the public. This is where they try to hide behind sovereign immunity. So what do? You pull them over into the private and you sue the man, right? You don't sue the postal clerk. You sue the man who is the postal clerk. And over here, if you want to get uppity and try to sue, and I don't recommend it, but you can, if you want to go over here and sue the public, you got to be public. You got to be Alicia Keys. You got to be, you can't be Penis Van Lesbian. You have to be Dick Van Dyke to be over here, right? Okay. So the idea is that like with like, period, right? You cannot have a government. So that's why the government tries to get you into court and trick you into thinking that you are a person, that you are a U.S. person, that you are a U.S. citizen. Were you a man born on the land? Were you born in the Washington, in that 10 square miles of Washington, D.C.? Well, if you were, ooh, now there's some issues, and there's even more paperwork to be done. But what you got to do is get these guys to understand, hey, I'm private. I'm no sovereign. I'm just a civilian, right? You might want to write a letter to the, if you've got armed service, if you've been, you're part of the military, I'm sorry, that's UCMJ, quit watching. This is not regarding you, because you have put yourself over here, right? Voluntarily. All 100% volunteer. They did not conscript you. So anyway, the idea is that, so you might write a letter to the Department of Defense and say, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. This is my social security number. Am I active duty military? Right? Have I got any, or right? Have you been honorably discharged or dishonorably discharged? But am I a member of the military? The answer will be no, if you're not. And, but you need documents. You have to have evidence. You can't just say no. Right? Just again, you can't just say I don't consent. You have to show evidence. Evidence. I'm without the United States. Here's evidence. Cites to statutes aren't going to cut it. Must have facts and evidence. That's what you're adjudicating when you walk into a court of law. I'm never going to get there at this rate. Let's see here. So now there's a bunch of stuff here, and I'm going to skip over that. Okay, and then after we get from the 7 Hermetic principles, these are as ancient as can be. You can look them up. Hermetic principles. Hermes. You should know them and how they apply to you in your life. Okay, now we have, from there, we get positive law. And you can look in the USC, positive law. Okay, that's law that applies to everybody, right? So the idea is that there are, USC 26 is not positive law. Applies to a special class of persons. And see, what's cracking me up is I had battles with the IRS, 7 years of battling with the IRS. And the IRS, so I was taught by my adversary, not taught by friends. And they used every dirty trick to exploit my ignorance, because I was completely ignorant. And the IRS woke me the hell up, because they did. They tried to do it, right? I did not understand the difference in private, but I was mixing the two, and I was right. But I have the luck of the dragon. And I managed to get them to admit that, oh, yeah, I do not have income from over here. All my income's over here. Not taxable if it's over here. Taxable if it's over here. Okay, let's see here. So you got to know about positive law. right? Which titles are positive law? And you can look that right up. That Google will even show that to you. What's positive law and what's not positive law. Okay, so if it's not positive law, only applies to a certain class of people, right? 27 is positive law. If it's alcohol inside, right, inside this corporation, it's taxed by stamp, right? You cannot buy cigarettes, right? And they are obviously willing to kill over this, right? That one guy that was selling cigarettes in New York on the street, that hadn't been, they killed him. There's a lot of, anyway, the idea is that you can't get around 27, right? You cannot buy a bottle of liquor. The only way to get around that tax is to not buy the liquor, right? Same thing with your fuel tax. The only way to get around that tax is to either buy less fuel or no fuel. And if you come up with a device that you can use you come up with a chariot, let's think of it this way from old times, that doesn't require their fuel, they'll kill you for it. If it runs on water or if it runs on whatever. I mean, there are some places where they have these like trucks and so forth that are covered in solar panels, and so the solar panels actually charge the batteries that run the motors, right? There are places where the guy had to get out of the car and push it because he was not allowed to drive a vehicle. Anyway, these guys, right, in their territory. Technically, the road is public. But seeing what kind of public? This kind of public, or where the private is public, or or over here where the public is private. But anyway, you should be able to travel on the roads unmolested. That's a difficult thing to do, by the way. Anyway, so geez, how much? Like I said, how much am I going to get into this? Then, and you have to also understand that this is man-made law. So once again, we start with principle, the first Hermetic principle. It's man-made, right? These laws that are in our books, right? These are thoughts. These are things that they wrote down. Gravity is not man-made, right? That law of gravity works. The idea that if you take, you take a human, you take one of us, hold us under the water for 15 minutes, and that's a dead human, right? Because there's a law at effect there, right? If you can't breathe, you die, right? You can go for quite a while without food. You can go quite a while without water, but the air, yeah, that's essential. And you can only go minutes without that. I don't care how much of a yogi you are. But the idea is, I mean, that's the law. This thing needs breath. And there's a lot of other laws that are not man-made, but we're talking about man-made laws here. The stuff that's on the books, the stuff that the law enforcement officers try to input on you. Okay, they cannot affect or command performance or anything if you're private. Now, here's the thing: you gotta be able to prove you're private, right? And if you've got a driver's license, now here's a great thing, and I said this in another, right? Because I'm old enough where used to be able to get into Canada and back with just a driver's license. And then I can't remember how that came up, but I showed this very sexy with her bad self in her uniform, Border Patrol agent. I think she was Canadian, my driver's license. And I said, shows that I'm a U.S. person, right? Back when I thought I was a U.S. person. This is 90s or 80s, late 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. I think it was 90s, early 90s. And she looked at it and she said, this is evidence of your ability, or that you have permission, or that you are licensed to drive in the state of Hawaii. This is not evidence of U.S. personhood. This is not evidence of you being a U.S. citizen. This is just evidence that you're allowed to drive. And she's correct, because guess what? In many places now, people who are quote unquote illegal that are not here, they can get driver's licenses. They'll take the fees, right? Okay, so what you need, and I don't have one handy, is now they call it Real ID and so forth, but you need a document, or you need a piece of paper, or you need something to show them that you are from the U.S. That's be a U.S. passport would work very well. I was, where you were born tells them what your quote unquote nationality is. See, and you become a national, not a U.S. national, not a state citizen, you're just a national. You're just a transient national upon the land. That's all you are, right? And they tried to put this government over you. Okay, because like I said, once they got this, they got everything. And this is how you bust out of it. Okay, and like I said, there's paperwork to be done. There's paperwork to be done. There's paperwork to be done. You can't just say, boo, I don't consent, right? And you have no evidence of anything. And in fact, they're going to try and use your driver's license as evidence that you're a U.S. person. And if you swore that you were a U.S. person someplace, well, then how do they know you're not? So there's all manner of contracts you got to go back and fix, or at least null them out or void them out, etc. Okay, so then you get man-made law, and see, that's the thing. The people that write these laws consider themselves the trustees of the natural law. And if you take a look at who writes the laws, right, because they don't just show up in our code of federal regulations out of the blue. There's guys, there's humans, there's people that are writing this, or writing these laws. And these guys are actually exceedingly clever. Now, here's the other thing. I think David Wynn Miller and a few others pointed out that when it comes to words, you need to define the words. You got to know what the words mean, because there can be many definitions for each word. Now, being clever, they wrote this book. And these, like I said, these guys have ridiculously high IQs, wherein you use these words. And if you use all the definitions one way, then that is that they mean one thing. If you use all the definitions another way, that means another thing. Those are called ciphers. So the idea is that you were considered smart and clever if you can write poetry, like the Hawaiians, where I come from. I'm here in Hawaii. They'll be writing a song, and it sounds like a lovely song about waterfalls. And so forth. They're singing about the land and waterfalls and so forth. Nope. They're singing about women and sex and other stuff. But you have to know the innuendo. You have to know the alternate meaning of the words, and you have to understand what they're singing about. It's the same thing here. But see, in the law needs to be precise, so that you cannot have numerous interpretations of law. And that's where you adjudicate, right? What do the words mean? So if you tell them what the words mean in your documents, there's no wiggle room and there's no need for adjudication. You have to treat them like little children, so that every single word. The guy that gave you the biggest clue was a man named Bill Clinton, when he said that depends on what your definition of the word is, because every single word has meaning, right? So you need to know what the words mean. All right. The next thing here is, all right, so then and I'm not going to get into all of this except for two things. Oh, geez, because there's so much to do. But there's the next thing is there's substantive law. And then over here, and see, that's where I spent all my time. I spent my time reading substantive. Right, that's one, substantive. And then on this side, there's process. Over here, I would very much recommend that you look up in Google your state and your style of process. Because when you look up style of process, in the state of Hawaii, the style of process, it says it in the statutes. I believe that's 650-115. I wrote it down someplace. So you should know these things. But anyway, in the state of Hawaii and the Hawaii revised statutes, our style of process says directly that it will run in the name of the state of Hawaii. Now, I want a pen that writes. Ooh. Oh, no, I don't like that. Oh, how about orange? I like orange. All right. Let's get this. The state of Hawaii. That's who's supposed to come at you, right? Okay, style of process, the state of Hawaii. Guess what's on all the documents? What's on all the documents, and I'm not going to put it up there, I'm just putting it there so you can see it, is actually they don't even put the. They don't even do that much. They just put state in all caps of, in all caps, Hawaii. And you'll see this. Okay, why does that matter? Well, because they're violating their, right? Because this is, anyway, they're tricking you. They're funning you. That's fraudulent conveyance of language. Anyway, because this and that are not same. Now, here's the other thing you need to understand. All of our courts right now are Article 1. They're under the executive. They're under the president. These are not Article 3 courts. Right? So this is rather important to understand that the Article 3 courts, and you can't get over here to Article 3 courts until you exhaust all of your administrative remedies. That means you got to go through all the courts. You got to go all the way to the state Supreme Court and all that stuff before you can finally get over here to an Article 3 court. Right? You must exhaust all administrative remedies. Now, most of you don't know your administrative remedies because you don't know procedure. And see, that's the thing. If you follow the proper procedure, remedies over here also, remedial law. Remedial law. Where you, and here's the other thing on this, which is annoying, is that they don't have to give us, they have to give us a remedy, but they don't have to tell us the procedure, right? They don't have to tell us what the remedy is or how to get it. They just have to provide one. They don't have to tell us what procedures to use. So what they do is they trip you up on procedure so they can get you on technicalities, right? And that's where they got that whole sovereign man thing and a whole bunch of other movements that have moved through. They screwed up on procedure because they're over. You can't just, I'm telling you, you cannot just go to court over here on the public side and say, I don't consent. Right? Well, okay. You cannot consent all the way to prison, right? You can be like, I don't consent. It doesn't matter. You got to have paperwork. You have to have evidence. You have to have facts. You have to have evidence, stuff you can show them, physical evidence, not just cites to law and stuff like that. Who cares? Because I've seen guys walk in there and they start talking about their constitutional right. You ain't got no constitutional rights. You're not even party to the document. You are not party to the Constitution. Get it through your fat heads. They are. Okay? That Constitution protects and restrains them from acting upon the persons that were already here, the people that were on the land. Now, if mommy and daddy pledged you with a birth certificate, there's paperwork to be done. You got to undo that pledge and let them know, hey, wait a minute, I didn't sign any contracts. I was 1. I didn't sign any contracts. I was 0. I wasn't even, I wasn't old enough to sign this. I got a social security number that was given to me before the age of 18. I'm before the age of majority. Before the age of majority, you can't even get a fucking document notarized because you're not old enough to contract. So if you're over here in the public, you must have a contract. And that contract is assumed, presumed actually. Right? Presumption as opposed to assumption. Now they make some assumptions, but overall it's presumptions, and you must rebut their presumptions. Right? Affidavits in law that are not rebutted stand in law. Right? That's as simple as that. And most people, like, I was amazed. Most people don't even know what an affidavit is. But then you need to know administrative due process, where it's, hey, you got 20 days to answer this. And see, they understand administrative due process. That's why the IRS sends you notices and all kind of notices. And a lot of people get afraid when they see the IRS notices and they don't respond. Now they got you because you have dishonored them. Okay, so you can use this process to your benefit. You can use this process to make statements that become facts when they are unrebutted. Okay, so that's simple. You need a notary, and you need a notary that understands this, right? And that the idea is that 10 days is a gentleman's agreement. You usually have 10 days to respond. Like you should just get in the habit of responding to whatever it is in 10 days. But most of the time, you give them 20 plus the 1. So 21 days to respond. Okay, they don't respond in 21 days. You hand them an affidavit. I don't have an affidavit handy around here. I just got done mailing off a couple, actually. But you hand them an affidavit, and you make some statements in that affidavit. Statements of fact. Okay. Now, true and correct to the best of your knowledge. All right. You send it to them, and they don't respond. Or you can do this with bill collectors and others also. It's awesome because I had this one group of idiots that were trying to collect on me, and I was just like, you're ridiculous. First off, the debt's already been paid. Second off, there isn't any money. Third off, right? You didn't loan me anything. I don't have any contract with you in the first place. But see, if I would have sent them a check, they would have cashed the check. But anyway, after 21 days, it's a presentment. They don't respond. Well, now you say, hey, you send them a certified or verified letter because it's verified by a notary of default. So this is your first AF. And then over here, you do a verified affidavit of default. And what you're doing is you're warning them, hey, I sent you this thing and you didn't respond, right? And see, that's comes down here to basically, following the law, right? Your man-made laws here. Okay, so verified affidavit of default, and you give them 10 days and say, look, I sent this to you. You send it to them again, right? The same affidavit, so you got to send it to them twice. Verified again, notarized, right? You didn't respond, but I'm sure it's through no fault of your own. You're very polite and very cordial. And then, finally, the third step after that is their verified affidavit of default. They defaulted. See, because here, again, all of our law is Christian law. So he who dishonors first loses. Simple as that. And silence is dishonoring. When you have a duty to speak and you don't speak, that's dishonor. Okay, but not only that, better than that, now you have affidavits that stand in law because they were unrebutted. So now you have your verified affidavit of default, and if you're smart, you wrote your affidavit in the first place with statements in there that now can be considered true and correct. Right? I'm a private person. I am not a public person. I am right. Okay, and by person I mean a man on the land. Right. Okay, so there's numerous ways. Some people call this notarial protest, right? But most notaries won't sign on with that. But the idea is that that this is administrative due process. This comes over here in procedure and process. Okay, so you need to learn some of these processes and procedures, right? And it's different for every state. Like in the state of Hawaii, it's one thing. In other states, it's another. I have one. I might have one. In here. See, and I got in trouble. I was naughty because here is a document, and there is. Can you see that's in purple? I should have given this document to the other party. Instead, I kept it as my copy. Oops. But anyway, it can't be copied. It can't be a certified copy of the original. It has to have the purple on it that shows them that you gave a copy from the court and you give a copy from you. Okay, but it has to have this purple mark on it, or else it won't be considered value, and then it won't be considered true and correct and a true copy, and then you'll be considered to be operating ex parte, where you didn't tell everybody. You only told the judge. You only put your paperwork in with the clerk, and the clerks aren't going to tell you right? That's not their job. Their job is to file paperwork and assume that you know what the hell you're doing and file it correctly. So anyway, I got that and see, I still have it. So I corrected it and put a whole other document in. But and then when I was in court, they made copies and handed it to everybody and gave me a soft reprimand. Because there was a court case that they cited. And see, that's the other thing. Whenever the government gives you a document, read everything on that document carefully. But anyway, they cited a court case where somebody else did that, and the other party objected strenuously because they were not informed, and if they would have that information, things might have been different. So all you're doing is basically making sure that it's equitable, once again, because that's what you're looking for. And again, based on this, you're fair. right? So all that stuff you see in the court where they have used to be on TV where they have surprise witnesses or the one party wasn't privy to the other thing and it changes everything. Well, that's good courtroom drama. But in real life, each party has everything, and you can go down to the courthouse if you're involved in any kind of whatever it is, litigation or suit or even traffic ticket, whatever, and you can find out if you know your case number and your reference number and stuff like that. You can go down. It's a matter of public record, and you can go down there and inspect whatever documents and ask for copies. They'll usually charge you if you want copies, but you can inspect whatever documents you want regarding whatever case it is. I had a girlfriend that was in California, and they were getting evicted because they wanted to tear the building down and gentrify the place and make a nicer building. Well, some of the people there were privy to the law a little bit, and they all went down to go find out the cases that were pending against the people that didn't want to move, because they have all kind of law in California. But anyway, the idea is that they were able to get all the documents from the other side because it's a matter of public record. So you have the right to go inspect it. So now you can take one, if they have affidavits filed or whatever, you can pull the affidavit and you can rebut it. Right? Oh, this fact is not true. This fact is not true. Well, yeah, but that's immaterial and so forth. And then you got to know what verbiage to use there. Right? But if you don't rebut, and then they go to court to adjudicate, and so you can do this all ahead of time. You want to make it easy for the judge to rule in your favor. But they can't rule in your favor if there's no evidence and then you don't have any documents out. Right? Simple as that. Okay. I got off the track a little bit here, but am I going to cover the rest of this? This is way too much stuff. Anyway, I think that's as much as it for today. But the idea is that you need to get off from that, because a lot of people are really strong over here, but weak over here. That would be me, yours truly. I'm weak. I was weak over here. You got to know procedural law in your state and how it works. And then you also, and see, because once you understand procedure, you can get your remedies. And if you don't know procedure, you'll never get your remedies. So you need to know how to fill out the forms. Do I have one? This one over here. Well, yes, I do. See, this is how they give you a remedy, but they don't, nowhere in the instructions does this tell you how to use this as a remedy. But this is a passport form, and you need to know how to fill the thing out so that you are not a U.S. citizen or U.S. person. It tells you right on here. You can check and see if you're a U.S. person or it says right there. There's a box you can check. Yes or no, right? U.S. citizen? No, I am not. Let's see, over U.S. person? No, I am not. Right? I was born on the land. I am not a part of this corporation. Here is the document that you're going to fill out, and you need to know how to. And there's lots, and you need to understand. And then the clerk at the desk is going to try to trick you as best he can into not filing a piece of paper that says you're a U.S. person. It says that you're not a U.S. person. He's going to try and do everything in his power to get you to naturalize you, right? The clerks in your in your county, the clerks at the post office, they're all clerks that are there that have the power at the freaking DMV to naturalize you, right? You don't want to be naturalized. You don't want to go from here to here. What you want to do is stay over here and prove that you're over here. So you'll get a card and you'll get a passport that says, it won't say anywhere on there that not, but when they pull the numbers and they run the information, it will become very clear to you, or clear to them, that you're over here and not over here. And they will be very kid gloves. You'll notice a difference in the attitude. Let's put it that way. Okay. You got to go, man. Your alarm is going off. So, and see what I should have done. My fault. I should have waited for the guy to leave so that I wasn't distracted. But anyway, I could have made this in 10 minutes and then I wouldn't have people running around. But anyway, the idea is that, look, you need to know the law. They want you very much entertained, right? like I said, I knew way too much about, say, D&D. I knew way too much about Lord of the Rings. I knew way too much about, you know what I mean? Shit that didn't matter. I was a DJ for a long time back in the early 80s. I knew all manner of discography, and I could tell you all about who produced what record and what band came out of what band and the guitarist that moved from this band to that. Who fucking cares? I should have known a little bit more about this, because during that whole time, I was giving up huge amounts of my income when I didn't need to. But finally, in 1998, I think it finally was, the IRS and I got into a battle, and I started learning some stuff, and I figured out that, wait a minute, I don't have any income from within the United States, because I didn't know that I didn't know any of this, right? Because basically what they've done is they put this corporation over the land. And then they try to tell you that the public is greater than the private. And it's not. Because very clearly, it should be very clear to you that there is no, let's use all, gosh, I don't have enough. There is no Joe, the corporation, the trust, the whatever this is, without Joe. Right? This one does not give birth to this. This one does not give life to this. This one gives life to this. So it is exactly the opposite. Public is less than the private. But you got to know. Okay, wait a minute. Before you take off, you got enough time. I'm over here. But the idea is that you want to stay on the land and not move into this world of fiction, right? Because this is fiction and law. This is how they get you corporations, corporations, corporations. You need to understand how to become a corporation and contracts, and how to handle your business, how to handle your business, and also understand that the what's the word I'm looking for? That you when you're trying, you need to be able to understand endorsements and contracts and all that stuff, right? Because if you don't, this guy's going to get screwed by this guy. Right? Because they have, and make no mistake, these guys have absolute power over this guy, right? So you need to be over here in the private, not over here in the public. All right, Crime Stoppers, I gots to go. I will talk to you guys soon. I'll have some other stuff loaded up on BitChute, and we'll get to that. And I'll try to read some of these comments and maybe make another video, or have some responses. But anyway, thanks for all your comments. Thanks for your attention, and I'll talk to you guys soon.